Mike Owens here. They're joined by Roy Big Country Nelson. He's going to be back in action facing Alan Belcher on the 10th of November for Gamebred Bareknuckle MMA 6. Roy, great to sit down and chat. How things are you today?
Good. I appreciate you having me.
Perfect. This is your second foray into the Bareknuckle MMA world. How was camp been second time around?
You know what? It's this one's a little bit different because I actually have a camp. So that one changes the dynamic. You're like, oh, before the other one you don't even get to think. You just kind of oh, I'm fighting. That's cool. So this one you get to think and dwell on stuff a little bit more.
How much does a Bareknuckle MMA camp differ from a standard MMA camp?
I think the biggest difference is you just start thinking a little bit more about like where you're punching, like are you going to punch the forehead, like you just try to be a little bit more crisper. And then the other thing is you want to make sure you don't get hit as much because it hurts.
100%. I tried to find the last interview that you did prior to your first fight in Gamebred Bareknuckle, and I heard you use the word bucket list quite a few times. This was a bucket list item that you wanted to tick off. What brought you back for a second time in Gamebred Bareknuckle?
You know what? It was my bucket list was actually just to get a boxing match. It was because George just did the fight card in April with Roy Jones Jr. and Pettis. And I was just like, oh, well, like if they're putting on boxing cards, so that's how I kind of got twirled into this. I was just trying to do a bucket list of my boxing. I just wanted a one boxing card, and then all of a sudden, next thing I know, I'm doing bare knuckle.
So I presume the boxing fight is in the next that you want to scratch?
Yeah, no, you know what? I just want to have one just so I have, check mark, and then I'm good.
Out of interest in the combat sports world, what else is on the bucket list? What are the other things that you would like to tick off before it's all said and done?
You know what? Just boxing's that's the only one. But right now I'm just focused on Alan Belcher and then and trying to get that belt. That was about. I mean, that's my focus. And then after that, whatever lies. But right now it's just one fight at a time.
Yeah, of course. Well, as you mentioned there, you'll be facing Alan Belcher in just two weeks today. What do you make of him as an opponent, and also what he's been doing in the BKFC ring over the last number of years?
I mean, the fact that he's been unstoppable for the last 5 years, 5-6 years. I mean, he hasn't lost in 5-6 years. And he's definitely put on size and muscle and strength, and he became the BKFC champ. So I mean, that's the one thing that I'm looking at is if I can get his notch from him, then I'm cool.
Does a fight like this about where the guy with his credentials match with your credentials? Do these type of fights, are these the ones that excite you a little bit more?
No, you know what? I'm just happy just to be, to go out there and be competitive. That's my first and foremost. And then the fact that he has, like his, pedigree and, like all his credentials, then yeah, you're like, oh, wow. And then when after, depends on how the thing, ends, you're like, oh, I did that. And then you just kind of look, but once you get past that first one, then you're like, okay, I want to get that, that second belt.
Yeah, 100%. I did check the record, and obviously Belcher's been doing his thing over in BKFC and also in professional boxing. It's been 10 years since his last professional MMA fight. Now, with that being said, you still haven't the activity over the last 10 years. Do you lean a little bit more into the wrestling and grappling side of things, or do you make this a classic?
But I don't know, because I mean the thing is Alan Belcher's always been a stand-up guy, even when he was MMA guy.
Yeah.
So like I don't think that it's always been sprawl and brawl for you kind of don't lose that, and then especially you don't like it's not like he stopped in combat sports. It's it's kind of like riding a bike. You just still naturally just do it unless you just started it and then go, oh, I haven't But he did it for many years, and then go, oh, you know what, I'm going to try my hands at something else. That's like me going, oh, I'm going to do bare knuckle, and then go, oh, I'm going to go to boxing. We're still doing combat sports.
100%. The Gamebred Bareknuckle MMA world title is on the line in this fight. I know you've won some world champions in other organizations, but how much do you think adding the Gamebred world title would add to your legacy?
You know what? I actually, I'm excited. It's just one of those things, like I said, it's a bucket list. If you're like,
Mm.
got that one, especially if it's, it's the um first bare knuckle MMA championship. I like to be the first in a lot of stuff.
Mm. And obviously, if should you win this fight in 2 weeks' time, your first defense in all likelihood will be against a former opponent in Junior Dos Santos, a man who you faced all the way back in 2010. Does having that potential rematch and getting that L back from all those years ago, does that add any impetus going into this
Yeah,
fight?
no, it does, because then you're just like, I just ran out of time. Now I have more time. So
Mm.
I like it.
What did you make of the Junior Dos Santos versus Fabricio Werdum fight?
That fight was it's what happens when when you first get out there and do a bare knuckle, you're just kind of a little timid. You're like, what do I need? Because punches are not going out because you have like that extra room with the gloves. So you're like, oh, I got to go that extra inch, or so it's definitely a different beast. But I mean, as you see, juniors, started filling his range, a little bit later in the 3 rounds, and then Verdum paid, and then Verdum finally was like, oh, okay, I got to do this, and then he kind of like ran out of steam because he ran out of time.
Yeah. Well, you've mentioned there that item on your bucket list being you want to get that boxing fight in before it's all said and done. I'd like to know what type, if this boxing fight does come off, what type of opponents would be most excitable to you? Are you looking for a legend versus legends match? Are you looking for a young gun, maybe a YouTuber or an influencer, perhaps? What kind of would interest you in that space?
Influencers are always good because they pay really well. So I'm all about the influencers. But no, if I was gonna do it, I would do a like a boxing legend or something. Like it's just one of those things. I just want to get out there and have a good time. And then box to go. Oh, look, I'm pretty good at boxing too.
Out of interest, what is your overall opinion on the influencer world? I mean, it kind of divides opinion in MMA. Some people like it, some people don't. What are your thoughts on it?
It depends on what you're looking at for. If you're looking at for like pure entertainment value, it's definitely exciting. It's just like how you're going to be excited for the Francis Fury fight.
Mm.
You have to watch because you're entertained, and then plus it's the combat sports has the little extra. You're like, oh, what if. But like from a straight, if you're just looking at straight combat sports, sometimes you're like, oh, that's garbage. Like they don't even know how to punch, or but it's like, I mean, they've been doing celebrity boxing forever, and sometimes you're just like, oh, I just want to see that guy get his butt beat. So it's just one of those things that you're like, I don't like that guy, so let's see him get beat up.
I do feel like there would be a space for you in there when you look at your knockout highlights and your highlight reel. Compare it to some of these guys with the lack of their experience. I do feel like the question mark around your KO power and your hand speed. I feel like there could potentially be a space where you slot in quite nicely.
I think definitely from the fan standpoint, they definitely want to see it. But my opponents won't. So then that probably wouldn't happen. They're like, I'm good.
Of course. And you mentioned it, obviously the big fight taking place tomorrow, Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. Obviously, or presumably the MMA hardcores are rooting for Francis, but do you give him any chance in that fight out in Saudi Arabia?
You know what? Yes, on boxing power, but the thing is, but the one thing about like MMA guys wearing boxing gloves, like from a defensive standpoint, we're like, oh, it's like you have to like hit really, really hard in a boxing glove to even like for us to even go, oh, that kind of hurt.
Mm.
It's because it's just not the same versus like no gloves or MMA gloves. Like we just hit you a little bit, you're like, oh, that kind of hurts. So like our defense is a little bit different. So it it's I'm actually just intrigued because I think the first 4 rounds is what's going to decide how the fight actually goes. If because in boxing they also go, I've seen boxers where they're like they lose the first 2 rounds just so that they can get a flow going, and then they go, okay, now I'm going to start putting the pressure on to win the next 8 rounds, so they can go, oh, I won 8 rounds to 2, like where they're more strategic, where MMA guys, we're just like we're here to finish the fight. First round, second round, or third round. We're not just trying to, let me just see how this works the first round. Oh, second round. Okay, I got to pick it up the pace. You know, they're a little bit more strategic because they have more rounds to try to pick their spots.
Yeah, 100%. Last one from me, Roy, and I appreciate you're a busy man. Thank you for the time. 2024 will mark your 20-year anniversary from your professional MMA debut. So I'd like to know, what is your message to all the big country fans who've supported you right from the offset, who've jumped on the bandwagon halfway through, and maybe even just supporting you for this initial fight? What are your message to the Reynolds
I think
fans?
the biggest thing I can say to my fans is I'm still here.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for the time, Roy. It's great to see you back in action, and I wish you the
I
best of luck
appreciate it.
for the
Thank
10th
you.
of November.
Thanks.